But we're going to talk about the stakes in particular for this country, no matter which way the vote goes. Either for Biden or for Trump, there are implications for this country very, very clearly. And no one knows that more than our national affairs editor, Chris Hall, who's getting set for our broadcast coverage starting tomorrow and on through Wednesday and giving us some time this morning. Nice to see you, Chris.
Good morning, Heather.
I was struck by a couple of things. The federal government has been very careful, Chris, not to endorse either side or candidate in all of this, just to say publicly the government is preparing for eventualities. That's publicly. Privately, what are they preparing for? What is going on?
Well, they are preparing actually for three scenarios. A Trump win, obviously, which would continue the sort of past 4 years of trying to tread carefully around judging Donald Trump by his actions rather than his words. A Biden victory, which, as you know, Democrats have historically tended to be more protectionist than Republicans, at least Republicans prior to Donald Trump. And the third is having no clear winner. And that perhaps is the most concerning to the Canadian government, not knowing exactly who will be in charge, not knowing who to congratulate, frankly, on Wednesday. So that is the one that scenario is the one that they're really continuing to work on at the cabinet committee level. Cabinet meets again today, just discussing how do you respond, who should respond, and being careful to remain neutral throughout until a winner is declared.
Because it could be contested for days or weeks or potentially even months. So they're very aware of that, I would think. You mentioned Donald Trump, and let's return to that. The prospect of his re-election. It's looking difficult, but there is a path to re-election for Donald Trump. So what is Canada thinking of there based on what the relationship has been over the last 4 years, Chris?
Well, I think they're prepared for the idea that Donald Trump, if no matter what happens, he remains president until January 20th, until Inauguration Day. So they would expect him to continue with the kind of rhetoric that he's used around the election, around China, around the importance of making sure that America is great again. So that could include more tariffs, more threats of tariffs. I think the government here has made a point of trying to deal with Donald Trump at sort of face value, if I can put it that way, that he is the leader of the United States and he is capable of making rash statements in many cases, but when it comes down to really working with Canadians, he's prepared to do that, as are members of administration. So there is a knowledge there, a known commodity with Donald Trump that they don't really expect to change massively unless there is that period of uncertainty when really all bets are off, because no one really will know what will happen.
The prospect of a Joe Biden presidency has to be considered, obviously, given the polling numbers at this point. We have some pictures going back to 2016. I don't know if it was someone in Ottawa who was particularly prescient, but Prime Minister Trudeau did invite Joe Biden to Ottawa for a state dinner in 2016, and he talked there about his first wife's family coming from the Toronto area, how his sons wanted to be Mounties, a lot of personal goodwill. But beyond that, I mean, it's really significant what you said. The protectionism, the buyback, the Build Back Better means a whole lot of Buy American, Chris. What are the particular issues for Canada in a Biden presidency?
On the positive side, obviously climate change, Biden's belief in multilateral organizations like the World Trade Organization, which, as you know, Donald Trump has refused to appoint judges to the appellate court. So a lot of the appeals around concerns and tariffs have ground to a halt. On the flip side, as you just mentioned, this is a very protectionist kind of game plan, a $400 billion plan to try and build back America, which would give preference to American suppliers. He's talked about returning supply chains to the United States to be less dependent on overseas suppliers, really building up the manufacturing base again. So these are things that have to be factored in when we look at what the Democrats might do. And to add to that, very quickly, Heather, the Senate could very well change hands. A number of close races. The Democrats get the control of the Senate, the White House, and the House of Representatives. That means that there will be a much greater push on returning jobs, building up that manufacturing base, and really trying to restore sort of American primacy when it comes to its own supply chains.
And in terms of personal relationships, even though it could be warmer with Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau than perhaps it has been at times between the Prime Minister and President Trump, one of the things that people have said repeatedly over these last 4 years has been the lesson from Donald Trump, or one of the lessons from Donald Trump, is it has to be a whole lot more going on between the two countries than just friendly personal relationships.
That's absolutely right. They have been dependent for far too long on that sort of one-to-one, the relationship between president and prime minister. Ever since Donald Trump's election, the government here has made an effort to reach out to state governors, to congressmen, to mayors of large cities to ensure that those contacts are there in cases like this, where it's not really clear what the outcome might be, to ensure that the understanding remains of the close interconnectedness of the economies and of those supply chains that we spoke about. So they have really made that effort, and that will continue. I've talked to a number of people inside the Prime Minister's office and in various ministers' offices who deal with foreign affairs and trade. And the concern here is that we have to continue to do that outreach. Can't do it right now while an election campaign is on, but as soon as the vote is in, trying to understand who we need to talk to, who might be able to be in a cabinet, the next cabinet around Donald Trump or Joe Biden, to ensure that those contacts continue to reinforce that relationship and the importance of that trading partnership that exists between Canada and the United States.
I have to let you go, but I do just just to clarify something, because your last answer made me think of something. Would the government representatives, would they in touch with somebody from potentially Biden's transition team at this point, Chris? Would those kinds of talks be going on?
No.
No,
they have made a point of not reaching out at this point because there are very strict rules about foreign contact during campaigns.
Okay.
And really, they have some overlap, like with some of the campaign people, but they're not having any kind of formal talks of any kind.
Very interesting. Chris Hall, I look forward to our next visit. May it be tomorrow or Wednesday morning. Big part of our coverage to come. Thank you, our national affairs editor, Chris Hall.